In this day one lesson, we're going to practice drawing lines. So first, I want you to put down your pencil and pick it up. How you pick up your pencil and how you hold it, that'll change from person to person. I'm not going to tell you how to hold your pencil, but you can see that I'm holding my pencil in between my thumb and my forefinger. But the key here is that I'm holding it lightly. I think gripping your pencil lightly is so important when drawing in general, but especially when figuring out how to draw in perspective. The tighter you grip your pencil often makes your lines wobbly or makes you draw too dark or too light. Let's try it out. I find if I draw slowly with my hand gripping the page, I for one find that very tiring. My hand might cramp up. And for two, I find it makes me draw slower. If I'm drawing a little bit looser, I find it easier to draw lighter lines, and I find often it's more sustainable in the long run when I'm drawing larger scenes especially. Next, the control over your lines is super important. You might have a hard time drawing lines that appear straight, like these ones here. But there's a couple tips that you can keep in mind to make your lines even straighter. Straight lines are really key when we're drawing in freehand. We're not going to make lines perfect, but we want to make them appear to be going kind of in a straighter direction. You'll notice that my hand is kind of parallel to the line. When I'm drawing a line upward, I'm drawing it up like that. I'm not trying to draw a line sideways like that. You'll notice when you compare the two that these lines appear a little bit different. This one has an uneven structure to it. It's thin and it gets thicker. And there's also a little wobbly little bit there. You try it yourself and let me know what you think. Draw a line straight up with your hand parallel to the line, and then one across with your hand perpendicular. I'd be interested to know what you find easier. I find drawing my lines up really follows the flow and the way that the muscles in my hand work. I can move my hand up rather than kind of crunching my fingers and then drawing a line across the page. That means that you can even switch the page around when you're drawing. Next, I want you to try seeing what it's like to draw with your whole arm, not just the rotation of your hand. Here's what I mean. When you see experienced artists draw in perspective especially, you'll see them using the whole page. You'll also see them moving their arms across the whole page as well. That's because often it's useful to have your arm and your hand in a neutral position when you're sketching. As we talked about with how we grip the pencil, having your hand and your wrist relaxed can help your lines appear more natural and often more straight as well. Let's try a couple examples here. So for this line, I'm going to keep my wrist in the same position. I'm going to rotate my wrist as I move on up the page. And you can see, especially right here, when my wrist is curved out, it's a little bit harder to maintain that control because right here, your hand is in a different position and I'm gripping the pencil differently than when I'm drawing up here. See that difference? I find it more effective to move my whole hand as I'm drawing these lines. So I'm starting with my wrist in a neutral position and I'm moving my hand up the page. Try those and let me know what you think. Which method works best for you? Now, we've added a lot of lines to this page so far today, and we're going to add a few more. When drawing in freehand, one thing that you'll find is that you're often drawing over the same lines you've drawn. That's because often we don't get it right the first time, and drawing shapes over and over again can help us perfect them, or perfect them to an extent. Here's an example. I want you to try to draw a circle. Now, my circle looks pretty good, but you can see how it's a little bit wobbly. There's some uneven edges there. It can be far more useful or efficient when you're drawing freehand to draw over shapes multiple times. This makes your drawing look a little bit messy, sure, but I think it adds some nice style, and it also means that your shape becomes the median of all the lines you've drawn. Here's what I mean. If I draw this circle again, I am going over those lines quite a bit. And maybe this is a little bit thick here, but you'll see how the shape of the circle actually comes out after I've drawn a whole bunch of circles. To me, at least, this circle appears a little bit more circular than this one. Now, you can do that a little bit neater, if you don't have to draw as many lines as I've drawn on the right there, but you can see this shape on the left. I think this one looks even better. Try it yourself. Try drawing a circle just like this with one line, and then with quite a few lines. See what works best for you. This method is used in perspective all the time. And when we're sketching, especially sketching a streetscape or making a rougher sketch, going over your lines many times can help you kind of learn the shapes that you're drawing. It's a really effective method of sketching. Lastly, for today, we're going to practice some line weight techniques. That's because, as we'll talk about in further lessons, the way that we draw lines and the density of these lines can convey a sense of distance, scale, and space. And those are all really important techniques when we're thinking about freehand perspective. I want you to draw 5 or 6 lines that start really light and get darker. And you'll notice that I drew those lines a little bit larger each time as well. And we've almost created a little bit of perspective here in the lines that I've drawn because they get larger as they come closer to us. Now, having these darker shapes, often they appear closest because as objects recede into the distance, the way that light works and travels and things like smoke or clouds or just the atmosphere in general often obscures objects farther away from us. Their colors become duller and they become fainter themselves. In this part of the challenge, we really dipped our toes into the fundamentals of perspective drawing. And sure, we didn't actually do any perspective drawing today, but we developed a groundwork, these, intensely valuable tools that we're going to carry on into the next few days of this challenge. We talked about how we position our hands when we draw, and we talked about the direction of our lines kind of corresponding with how our hand and our wrist sits on the page. We talked about moving our whole wrist as we're drawing lines, and then we talked about 2 super important concepts in perspective sketching. And that is drawing over shapes multiple times in order to really nail the shape, as well as drawing in shapes darker to make the shapes appear closest to us and farther away. Now, I know we did not actually draw anything in perspective today, but have no fear. Tomorrow, we're going to really dive into it. So I'll see you in the next part of this perspective sketching challenge.